I've got good news and bad news. Here's the bad news. Most protein bars are packed with sugar and unpronounceable ingredients. The good news? There's a better option. I'm Will, and I created IQ Bar plant protein bars to empower doers like you with clean, delicious, low-sugar brain and body fuel. IQ bars are packed with 12 grams of protein, brain nutrients like magnesium and lion's mane, and zero weird stuff. And right now, you can get 20% off all IQ Bar products, plus free shipping. Try our delicious IQ Bar sampler pack with 7 plant protein bars, 4 hydration mixes, and 4 enhanced coffee sticks. Clean ingredients, amazing taste, and you'll love how you feel. Refuel smarter, hydrate harder, caffeinate larger with IQ Bar.
Go to eatiqbar.com and enter code BAR20 to get 20% off all IQ Bar products plus free shipping. Again, go to eatiqbar.com and enter code BAR20.
Welcome to the Dogs Podcast with your hosts, Blake Reneker, Justin Charles, and Josh All.
Hey, what's up, Browns fans? Welcome back to another episode of the Dogs Podcast. Josh All, your host today. Happy Friday, everybody. I hope you're all having a great week and you're ready, as always, for the weekend. I know here where I'm at in Ohio, the weather doing Ohio things in the spring. 75, 80 degrees yesterday. Beautiful day. It's in the 30s this morning. Freezing. It's terrible, but that's what you get in Ohio in the spring. It's just so bipolar. It's crazy, but we will make it through. We're going to have a great weekend, and we're going to talk more Cleveland Browns today. I got part 3 of my conversation with the UK Browns fan, Oliver George. I'm very excited to bring you guys this final piece of my lengthy conversation, which was a great conversation that I had with Mr. George last weekend. And today's topic, the part that I think, we already had the topic in the conversation about the coaching changes, the free agent additions, everything with the personnel and the team so far. We've had the conversation about the NFL draft, and we debated back and forth whether the Browns should take a wide receiver at 6, the offensive tackle at 6. We had that conversation, that debate. Today's very interesting because this is the quarterback conversation. And it's really, I know it's a topic of conversation amongst Brown social media and fans and everything, but I believe the draft conversation, the arguments, the debate between what position they should do, should they trade back, BPA, all this kind of stuff, that has really dominated the conversation in a lot of places that I've seen, and also here recently this week, the Myles Garrett news. So that has been a big one as well. Not a ton other than Cleveland media, Mary Kay, and these guys pushing Deshaun Watson somehow as a viable starter for the Browns here in 2026. So we're going to have this conversation. I hope you guys enjoy it. Shedeur Sanders, Deshaun Watson, who's QB1, and then we're going to wrap things up in the discussion, in the recording, about our expectations for the Browns in 2026 as of right now in March. Obviously, the draft, training camp, all the news over the summer, potential injuries that pop up every year. You never know when a Martin Emerson is unfortunately going to tear an Achilles one day in the summer. It's just this stuff, unfortunately, it's all part of the game. It's part of the sport. Will change some outlook for this season. But as of right now in March, how do things look for the Browns heading into the season? Oliver and I discuss that here in a minute. But before I get into it, make sure you guys go to jointhedogs.com, join the Discord community, hang out with us, and get ready for the NFL draft, which we will be doing our 6th annual. It's hard to believe this will be the 6th year in a row now that we will cover the first round that the Browns have a pick, because there was a couple years there where we did not do round 1 because we weren't picking round 1, so we covered night 2. But this will be the 2nd year now in a row we get to cover night 1, round 1 of the NFL draft. Browns at least currently slated to make 2 picks. So that'll be Thursday, April 23rd at 7:45. We kick off the show, kick off the live stream, do a little round table, talk about what we're expecting for the first round. And then, 8 o'clock or whatever time it actually starts, 8:15, we'll be there live streaming for you guys covering the first round of the NFL draft. So make sure you guys mark your calendars and hang out with us for that as well. Okay, enough of that. Over to the conversation here. Wrap it up with Oliver George.
Moving on to another topic that I think probably the other biggest debate amongst Browns Twitter right now, and that is Shedeur Sanders and whether or not he is the Browns QB1 or whatever. I know you probably, from what I've seen from your tweets, etc., although I do have to be careful because I remember, you explained this to me where I think whoever was on the Twitter at the time disagreed with one of my tweets or something. And then the next day, I think it was you that was on the account that agreed with, and I was going, hold on, and then I realized it's two different people. It is obviously
confusing.
Opinions.
Yeah, I'm so on there. I'd say 95% of the time is me, and then the 5% that's not is Blake. And you can usually tell.
I think I've learned over the last few months. I've kind of learned who it is that I'm interacting with, and that's why I think that I'm pretty confident that this is your kind of view on it. But I think you're someone that has not, I say, a lot of faith, shall we say, but someone that believes that Shedeur Sanders deserves a chance and should be the Browns quarterback one. So I suppose where are you? I've just kind of said it, but what makes you feel confident in having that kind of trust or belief, shall we say, in Shedeur going into next year?
A couple things. So number one, the flashes, the big plays, the moments in games where he took over and was able to actually make stuff happen. I keep going back to the Titans game. And yes, I know people will say, well, it was the 3-win Titans. We lost to them. Yeah. We were a bad team, but we lost to them who were supposedly a worse team at our house. So anyway, things got really adverse in that game. Our defense was getting diced apart. We couldn't stop the run. That was a runaway game. Tennessee was going to run away with that game. Shedeur Sanders makes a bad throw, throws an interception. They go down, they score. And it was like it clicked. And I'm saying that is what I need my quarterback to be able to do because they're all going to make mistakes. Can you come back, shoulder the load, and push your team, carry them, drag them through the freaking mud to a win? Well, he almost did. Kevin went for 2 when we were only down by 14. I did not understand that decision. Really put us at a disadvantage the rest of the game. One of the dumbest decisions I've ever. I was done with Kevin. I'm like, just get him out of here. This guy's an idiot. But, he throws such a nice pass downfield. And he can move better than I think a lot of draft analysts even gave him credit for coming out of college. He's way more with his scramble rate and success is better than anything Deshaun Watson's ever done in Cleveland. And he's young. He had no preparation. He was 4th on the depth chart all summer. He was throwing to trash cans. The whole situation, the whole narrative around Shedeur Sanders was overcoming all the obstacles to still put your team in a position to win, and he did that. We won 3 games with him as the starter, more than any of the other guys. And with how bad the offense was, decimated offensive line, different lineup every week, wide receiver core, worst in the NFL, terrible situation. They were thrown to UDFA rookies. It's just, Andrew Berry, come on, man. Help us out a little bit. I do think he deserves the opportunity to showcase what he can do with a full season of experience, a full offseason of preparation, get the rapport with your receivers, get the rapport with your offensive line. We heard, who was it, Wyatt Teller, I think, came out and said, whenever it was halftime at the Ravens game, after Dylan Gabriel went out with the concussion, they said, that's the first time we ever heard Shedeur Sanders' cadence. We didn't even know what his cadence was like. Yeah. So that was a very disadvantageous situation for him. I think he's got the skills. I think he's got the upside. If it works, the Browns are in such a great situation with the roster because you got a 5th-round rookie contract at quarterback. That saves you so much cap space. It saves you draft capital next year. You can finally reload and retool everything you need to do because you don't have to worry about the quarterback as long as you have a decent draft this year. And if it doesn't work, okay. There's plenty of other quarterbacks we can plug in there this year that won't work either. We can try Deshaun Watson. It's not going to work. He's not coming back. I don't care if he plays decent football. I don't think he can play good football anymore. Even if it's decent, they're not going to re-sign him. He's not going to be the starter next year. Yeah. The only quarterback who has the potential to be the starter next year and in the future is Shedeur Sanders. That's why I think he deserves the shot to prove whether or not he can be.
Yeah, and I think Similar with the drafting. If anyone is sat here thinking that I'm going to be sat here going, no, Shedeur Sanders definitely doesn't deserve a chance to start, that's not going to happen because I'm not, I think it's one of them. Obviously, with it being Shedeur Sanders, it just brings so much, I don't even know what to call it, just, so much, not drama, because none of this is his fault. And I always have to make sure to point this out because, I think I've been maybe unfairly, in my opinion, grouped into that kind of like anti-Shedeur Sanders side of Browns Twitter, which I don't quite understand. And I even had someone in my comments the other day telling someone else that I was the biggest Shedeur hater and that I've never said anything nice about Shedeur. And it's like, well, if you actually go and look at all the stuff I've said about him, I've said plenty of nice things about him. So I always have to make sure that I'm careful by first saying that, when I talk about all of the drama and all of that stuff around Shedeur, that's not Shedeur. And that's not me saying that that's Shedeur by any means. He is, in all intents and purposes, done everything right. He came in, he blocked all of the outside noise out. He worked hard. He earned his opportunity that he got. And then, when he got his opportunity, he showed more flashes than any other quarterback that we saw. So I do always want to make that point of like, whenever I do talk about that stuff, it's not about Shedeur, the person, by any means. But I think for me, it's, as I said, so all of that kind of taken into account, with the flashes that we saw, etc. That's why that I'm not one of these people that's saying, no, get him off my roster because I get annoyed about his fans. I'm not going to say let's get rid of a guy that showed flashes just because certain people on Twitter are going to come and brigade my tweets or something like that. I think that's just a silly thing to do. And I think anyone doing that is doing so not because of the player, but because of everything that goes around it. So, I say all of that to say that I think he deserves a chance. I'm not, not going to sit here and say that, like, no, I've seen enough from him. He deserves a chance. But I think where I kind of lie on it was I don't want him having, we've heard Andrew Berry, we've heard Todd Munting, they've talked about it's going to be a quarterback competition, however much of a competition that is, we will, obviously wait and see. Dylan Gabriel and Deshaun Watson, not exactly much of a competition for him to go up against. So that's kind of where it is for me, is that, if that's the case, then I don't think it's going to, I feel careful to say this, not that it's not going to be earned, but I just think that's not the best environment to do that, which is why I've kind of been in the boat of, I want to bring in competition, but I don't want to bring in competition that pushes Shedeur out, but also, or pushes him in per se. So I'm not interested in bringing in a Russell Wilson. I'm not interested in bringing in a Geno Smith. I'm not interested in bringing someone who, yes, could beat Shedeur Sanders in a quarterback competition because it's Russell Wilson, it's Geno Smith. They've got, 10 plus years experience in the NFL. They're going to look good in training camp, obviously. But then what? You get one maybe okay year out of them and you're in the same position next year where you're having to try and find another young quarterback. So the whole thing of competition for me has, and this is why I know I've had this take that has gotten a lot of criticism on social media. But that's why I was a fan of, well, not a fan of, but that's why I was a proponent of bringing in an Anthony Richardson. Someone that you could go and get for a 5th, 6th round pick. It's not going to cost you anything. You're not bringing him in to beat Shedeur. So he's not, you're not bringing in him and going, well, he's your new starter. He would have to earn that job over Shedeur. And I think Shedeur and Anthony Richardson both competing for that job would be a better environment than what we currently have with, if they're going to call it a competition, we all know it's not really a competition. I just think that's a better environment. And as I said, it's not going to cost you anything. If it doesn't work out, Shedeur wins the job. Great. Shedeur wins the job. Let's see what we have in Shedeur this season. If it does work out and he comes in and he wins the job, okay, we have a very fun season ahead of us to watch. And you're still not exactly discarding Shedeur Sanders because it's not like you've brought in a Malik Willis or something. So that's where I've been on it. I wanted to bring in competition, but that's why Anthony Richardson was the guy that, everyone said, well, what on earth are you talking about? Why wouldn't you just bring in Malik Willis? Well, if you bring in Malik Willis, then he's your starter. There's no competition. He is your starter. If you bring in Kyler Murray, everyone can say, oh, it's on the minimum. He would be he's your starter. Kyler Murray would not, Kyler Murray is a two-time Pro Bowler, former first overall pick. People can have their criticisms of him. I have many criticisms of him. He would be your starter. So that's why the last few weeks, if you did see any of my tweets about Anthony Richardson, that is where it comes from, is that I think we should have brought competition in, not that's going to push Shedeur out, but it's going to hopefully give him more competition within this QB battle, that if he does then win the job, great, I feel better about that. What's your thoughts on that, I suppose?
Well, I'll be honest with you. The way I see it, I don't have any sources for this. This is all speculation on my part. I feel like the Browns know Shedeur Sanders is going to be their starter, and they're okay with that. I think they went into this offseason. They're going to talk about quarterback competition, obviously, to the public. They're not going to come in, we're handing Shedeur the job, because then you're going to get a lot of backlash, and you really cut off opportunities. You never know if a Kyler Murray is going to get cut and say, hey, I really want to come play for Todd Monken. Well, shit, we really need to take advantage of that if that opportunity comes up. But we already committed verbally or publicly to Shedeur. I get the whole competition thing, but they made no moves in free agency. They're not trading even late round assets for an Anthony Richardson. The way I saw everything play out last year, I really felt like Shedeur Sanders was Andrew Berry's preference at the quarterback position. Dylan Gabriel was very much Kevin Stefanski's preference. And we saw how that all played out. They brought in Joe Flacco as kind of your, let's bridge this thing in the beginning while the rookies get up to speed. And then Kevin went and gave it all to Dylan Gabriel immediately right after Joe Flacco flamed out and said, well, I'm still going to keep Joe Flacco as the backup. And Andrew Berry said, no, you're not. I'm trading him. Shedeur's the backup.
Yeah.
And we saw Shedeur got in there. He held the job down the rest of the year, like we've already talked about, shown the flashes and everything. I really think they're planning on giving him this opportunity. Again, I don't see Deshaun Watson as part of the competition. Definitely not Dylan Gabriel if he's even here. They might draft a later round rookie. I kind of hope they don't. I'm tired of wasting these picks when we need depth. We need a rookie contract, even if it's just a good special teams player.
Completely
That's
agree.
better than a third string quarterback.
Yep.
So you can get UDFA quarterbacks to come in here and be on your practice squad. You can sign a veteran, whatever. We don't need to be wasting these draft picks anymore. But I do think.
Sorry, carry on. I was
going to say, I think Shedeur Sanders is the guy.
I completely agree with that. I mean, I think you are right. I mean, I could sit here for the last few weeks and say, well, and just a little bit of like, if anyone wondering why, obviously the Anthony Richardson, like it made a lot of sense, but also I was a big fan of Anthony Richardson coming out. I'm not going to hide that. So obviously that is something that would excite me, having two guys that, I didn't think Shedeur Sanders should have been drafted number 2 overall last year. I was a big, person on Browns kind of social media pushing against that. But to get him later in the first or at the end of the start of the second round, I was all on board. So to get him in the 5th round, obviously I was absolutely more than happy with, more than excited with. But I think you're right. I think everything that they've done and all the moves that they've made kind of points towards, as you said, I think they're content going into the season with a Shedeur Sanders. In the back of my mind, I do think, well, Deshaun Watson, everyone remembers that first training camp where the Browns came away thinking that they just watched Patrick Mahomes. And that does slightly concern me because, for me, it's like, well, Deshaun Watson can't play football because his head. Like, that's what I think it is. I just think he has completely lost the mental capabilities to play in the NFL. Woods. Like Tiger Woods. I just don't think, I just think there's something that's happened. There's a wall in there that he can't play. That doesn't mean that he can't throw a football. So when he's wearing shorts in training camp, how good does he look throwing a football? That does slightly concern me that if they were going to do a true competition, that they might go, well, Deshaun looks quite good throwing the football in shorts. I'm not interested. I'm sure you're the same. We've all seen how that goes. We're not interested. If it is the quarterback room that it is now, yes, Shedeur Sanders, in my opinion, should be the starter. And I think everything that we've kind of seen, you mentioned it there with Andrew Berry. There's a reason why he traded away Joe Flacco, and Kevin Stefanski was surprised by that. He obviously wanted Shedeur on the field. That was obviously his pick. And I think that everything that they've done and everything that they've moved points towards Shedeur being the starter, which I'm not against. And I have to stress that so many times, guys. I am not against Shedeur Sanders being the starter. I'm a big fan of the kid. I think he's a great human being. Would I like to see more on an NFL field? Of course I would, but he was a 5th-round rookie playing for the worst offense in the NFL. So if anyone's going to give him that grace, it will be me.
This episode is partnered with Kalshi. Browns fans, are you ready to put your money where your predictions are? With Kalshi, America's #1 regulated prediction market, you can legally trade on events that actually matter to you. And the best part is you don't need to predict specific stat lines and compile a 7-leg parlay just to win big. With Kalshi, the objective is either yes or no. Will Shedeur Sanders be the Browns' Week 1 starting quarterback? Will Fernando Mendoza be the first overall pick in the draft? Will the Browns make their pick at 6, or will they trade out of that spot? And in other sports, will the Cavs win the NBA Finals? You can put your money on these predictions and more with Kalshi. If you want to try it out, Kalshi is giving $10 to anyone who signs up at kalshi.com/dogs and trades $100. Get away from disadvantageous sports books and dive into real-world outcomes with real-time odds and real payouts. Head over to Kalshi, KALSHI.com/dogs, DAWGS, or just click the link in the description to get $10 when you trade $100 with Kalshi. Because why shouldn't you get paid for being right?
I've got good news and bad news. Here's the bad news. Most protein bars are packed with sugar and unpronounceable ingredients. The good news? There's a better option. I'm Will, and I created IQ Bar plant protein bars to empower doers like you with clean, delicious, low-sugar brain and body fuel. IQ bars are packed with 12 grams of protein, brain nutrients like magnesium and lion's mane, and 0 weird stuff. And right now, you can get 20% off all IQ bar products, plus free shipping. Try our delicious IQ bar sampler pack with 7 plant protein bars, 4 hydration mixes, and 4 enhanced coffee sticks. Clean ingredients, amazing taste, and you'll love how you feel. Refuel smarter, hydrate harder, caffeinate larger with IQ Bar.
Go to eatiqbar.com and enter code BAR20 to get 20% off all IQ Bar products plus free shipping. Again, go to eatiqbar.com and enter code BAR20.
That's obviously the Shedeur Sanders stuff. Quickly want to get your thoughts on something that, just as you commented on my thing on it and agree with me. The 5 first-round picks rule change that the Browns have submitted. Don't get me wrong. First and foremost, it's not going to get approved. I think everyone can. I would be shocked if it gets approved. But I'm a fan of it, and I don't know what I think I saw you're kind of in agreement with it. What's your thoughts on the kind of 5 first-round picks thing? Because I've seen there seems to be like a really weird kind of reaction to this, where it seems to be this really controversial thing, and I'm kind of there like, is it?
Well, and it's not 5 first-round picks. It's just picks 5 years into the future.
Yes.
But you're absolutely right. That's what everybody latches on to. 5 first-round picks. Who are we trading for? We're going to trade all 5 first-round picks for Arch Manning, or we're going to try to get 5 first for Myles Garrett. Nobody will ever trade 5 first-round picks for one player. That's not what this is geared toward. It is geared toward trying to alleviate the strain of making a trade and putting premium assets into that trade that are going to hamstring you next year and the year after, or this year and next year. Let's space that out. I keep giving credit to the Bearded Brown show. They posted this, and I thought it was a great point. They said, what would the Deshaun Watson trade look like now? Obviously, still a bad trade. But if those 3 first-round picks were 2022, 24, and 26, rather than 3 in a row, space them out. That might lead to more trades happening.
We might have CJ Stroud on our team.
There you go. Some more superstars could be had.
Yeah.
And, a team might be willing to do that kind of a trade if it's like, well, I don't want to screw myself for the next 3 years. Let's space this thing out. Or let's talk about a couple second-round picks a couple years from now. Maybe we can get that deal done. Yeah. And I don't hate the suggestion. I know people are like, well, we got to save the Browns from themselves. They're just going to do something stupid with this. That's a valid point. I mean, I can't tell you they won't. We've done dumb things in the past, and I'm sure we'll do dumb things in the future. We're not the only team that does dumb things. And I know the Rams are all on board, I read, with this trade proposal.
Not
the teams that are willing to say, hey, here's a draft pick for this guy, get rid of this, they're probably going to be more on board with this, but I don't think it's as big a deal as people are making it out to be.
Yeah, and I think why the teams like the Rams and why you'll probably maybe see a team like Baltimore, I don't think would be against this, because, and I think what plays a part of why I like it as well is that it essentially gives good GMs, an advantage in some way, because if you're a GM and you're good at your job, and you've made it that you've created an environment with your owner where you've done a good enough job where you feel safe in your job, you know that your job is secure because of the good job that you've done up until that point, you're going to be way more, way more kind of for trading picks further out in the years than maybe a GM on the hot seat. Because a GM on the hot seat, he could offer, well, I could trade this pick where I don't think I'm going to be here. But then the owner's going to go, well, no, absolutely not. That is not happening. I'm not trading a pick that I might even have the second GM after you making that pick rather than that. So I do think that it gives good GMs and creative GMs more advantage. And that's why I think the Browns are the ones that have come up with this, because, we've kind of talked about it there, that we don't think Andrew Berry's job should be as secure as maybe he probably thinks it is. But I think he does think it is secure. I think him and Jimmy have kind of built that thing where he probably does feel safe within his job, as much as we don't think that he should or whatever. And someone that has gotten creative within the current restraints already within trades, I just think it just, as you said, it just gives you more flexibility. It just gives you more ammo in the chamber to work with and to kind of make these trades. And I think that will result in more trades. And, you look at the NBA, you see star players get moved a lot more than you do in the NFL. Now, don't get me wrong, the NBA obviously had to put in the stipend rule to make sure that teams went too far with it, et cetera, et cetera. Maybe we see something similar in the NFL after a team does go and trade 5 first-round picks, as much as we don't think they will. But let's be honest, if any team will trade for 5 first-round picks, it's probably going to be the Browns. So maybe that's why they want to do it. But no, as you said, I think everyone wants to kind of jump onto the whole, like, well, that means the Browns are going to trade Miles for 5, or that means we're going to trade 5 first-round picks for Arch Manning next year. I just think it just gives you more flexibility. And if it increases trades in the NFL, I'm all for it. Quickly, final thing before I let you go, Josh. It would be remiss if I didn't ask you that. Don't get me wrong, it's March. We haven't even had the draft yet, so I'm not expecting a full breakdown. But just where we are now, what's your, not your expectations, but like, what's your faith in that we're going to have a better season in 2026 than what we've seen in 2025 and 2024?
Yeah, this is where people get mad at me. This is where the off season is a very resurgent time for Browns fans. We just got scarred and raked across the coals for 4 months or whatever it was during the season. We get to the off season, it's renewed hope, it's new coaching staff, it's draft and free agents and all this kind of stuff, and Shedeur Sanders year 2. They got to be real about it. Roster's not good.
Yeah,
roster's not good. Defense looks okay. We don't have a lot of depth. We've lost a lot of depth pieces. There's a lot of work to do in that regard on the defensive side of the ball. On offense, it's all bad. I know we've added a couple new starters to the offensive line again. Wait till September before I make a judgment on whether they're good or not. We've done nothing to the wide receiver core. It was the worst in the NFL last year, and it's the exact same right now, which I expected it to be at this point. The draft is going to matter. Quinshon Judkins coming back from injury. How long until he's 100% effective? I know he'll be 100% cleared for the start of the year, but we won't see his true explosiveness for a while coming off of this injury. I'm tempering my expectations. I look at the team last year. We won 5 games. We were a couple plays away here and there from maybe winning 8. That's kind of crazy to think about, but an 8 or 9 win season last year was achievable.
Yeah,
it was. Yep. We were very close in some moments. Yeah, a couple plays here and there, and that's how football goes. So if things go our way, could I see us winning 9 games this year? Yeah, absolutely. Could I see this be a 3-win season and we're picking top 5 again? Yes. I can see all those outcomes being true. I don't think it's going to be like a 12-win season. We don't need to go that crazy, but there's reason to be hopeful and optimistic. I will say cautiously optimistic because, again, 3 wins, 9 wins, I think both are achievable, both are possible, and it's really going to come down to how much of an impact can Todd Monken make on this team, on this roster? I know a lot of the players have already come out and said, he's different than what I thought he was going to be. He's more personable. He's, they seem to like him relationship-wise. I'm just hoping the coaching staff he's assembled is better than what we've seen under Kevin Stefanski. Special teams needs to take a massive step forward. That was such a liability last year. Cost us the Jets game, which we lost to the Jets and Titans, man. Terrible season. But I'm going to be hyped whether I'm excited for the record outcome. I'm going to be hyped for the season. I'm hyped for this team. Yep. And I'll be very excited to see the new rookies come out and play.
Yeah. And I mean, you've got to always, as I said, you've got to be careful doing that because it's March. Until I see the draft, I'm obviously going to have a much different opinion on this than I am now. And I do think it's quite a silly question, to be honest. The only reason I asked it is because, I mean, it's an off-season video. Sure. I've got a guest on. I've got to ask it. But and I think it's the same with me. And I think how many teams can have this variation where, like last year, I was kind of on the same boat where I was like, look, don't get me wrong. This team could lose this team could win 2 games. Like this might be the first overall pick. This might be a disaster. But I wouldn't be shocked if they won 7 or 8 games. Don't get me wrong. I didn't think playoffs was a achievable thing, but I did think that they could be a sneaky team that's not technically eliminated in week 15, that kind of thing. And it's weird because this year I have, I suppose, a higher floor technically, but a higher ceiling, but still that variation, as you kind of said there, where if they go out and win 5 games again, I'm not going to be shocked. I'm not going to go, well, that was the worst. Like that, I could have never expected that. I mean, Shedeur Sanders, it might not work out. This offense might not work out. You could easily see a route to this team only winning 5 games. But then you look at the schedule. Hopefully, as you said there, we've lost some depth pieces, but I'm hoping this defense can stay somewhat in the same kind of production that we've seen out of them the last 2 years. Not got that many great quarterbacks on the schedule next year when you look at the schedule. So I think that variation is there. And I think there's certainly a chance that, if you're sat here in March and you want to get yourself excited for the 2026 season and you want to try and get yourself excited for potential, but I do think there is a chance that the Browns can, get this offense to a serviceable level to complement the defense, go along with that record, and you can go and win yourself 9-10 games and maybe sneak into the playoffs. I think that is certainly a possibility. But because it's the Cleveland Browns, as I said, I don't know how many other teams can enter a season with this much of a variation between expectations. But there's also a chance that the Browns just go out, fall flat on their face. Todd Monken doesn't work. The offense doesn't work. Shedeur doesn't work. And we're staring at another top 5 pick next year. I just think that's the nature of being a Cleveland Browns fan. And don't get me wrong, as much as we can kind of do the misery stuff with a Browns fan, I know everyone likes to, we have it worse than anyone. That is true mostly in the NFL. There is, most teams could have, in any given season. That's why we love the NFL, that you could have a team that wins 4 games and the next season goes and makes a run to the AFC Championship. We've seen that so many times. And that's why I suppose I'll finish off on the optimistic side of it rather than the kind of how it could be a disaster. That's why I will always, as much as the Browns try to beat this out of me, I will always have that kind of that optimistic approach every offseason of it's a new year, you've got a new chart, you've got another opportunity to go and improve your football team. And, my favorite thing about sports is that there's always next year. And that's something I always say. And every team always has that chance. When it's week 0, as bad as it can be, I'm always going to be sat there going, well, the best case can happen. Very rarely does for us as Browns fans. I say very rarely. It's never happened. We've never won a Super Bowl. I mean, the championships were from before even my dad was born, let alone when I was born. So obviously that's the case, but I'm always going to have that optimistic approach about it.
Yeah, me too. Me too, for sure. And to stay on the optimistic side, as long as the things that we have heard and been told, which doesn't always end up being the case, but if these things are true about Todd Monken, he's always had a successful offense implemented wherever he's been. Yep. Okay. That's what we need to see in Cleveland. Like you just said, if the offense can just complement the defense, it doesn't have to be top 15. Just don't be bottom of the league. It's a completely different team than what we've seen the last 2 years if that ends up being the case. And it was much harder to look at the team last year with any sort of optimism for playoffs and that kind of stuff. With no certainty whatsoever at quarterback. It's, well, we got 2 rookies, late round rookies, and we've got Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett. This is not, who's even going to be the starter?
Yeah.
Well, I'm much more confident after watching Shedeur Sanders last year with, if everything goes well for this offense, Todd Monken can do what he's done everywhere else here in Cleveland with these guys. He obviously, he likes Shedeur Sanders. You can tell he's got an idea of what I can do with this guy. Yeah, that was one of the questions the Browns asked on those aptitude tests or whatever during the head coaching searches. How would you continue the development of Shedeur Sanders? So that goes back to why I think he's the plan, unless something else better just happens to fall in their lap, he's the plan. Yeah. So I am very, I can easily see, more easily see what you're talking about with a playoff future being a potential this year. Yeah. I was definitely not looking at it that way last year. But this year, could the Browns sneak their way to, and again, in the North right now, maybe 9 wins get you there.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, it's going to be the most different AFC North pretty much since I've been a Browns fan. I mean, Mike Tomlin and Harbaugh, they were in this division my whole entire Browns fandom. So this is the first time that I'm going to see a Steelers team without Tomlin. This is the first time I'm going to see a Ravens team without Harbaugh. So, all of that kind of turnover within the division, the Bengals are the Bengals. I'm sure Joe Burrow will be injured by week 6.
Yeah,
so never we don't really need to worry too much about that. We've never won the division. It would be silly for me to sit here and say that should be the goal, should be winning the division. But, that should be the goal every single year. And I suppose I'll wrap it up by saying that, as I said, I can talk optimism, all of this stuff. As I said, last year, I didn't think playoffs was an option. I didn't think that was even remotely something that we should be striving for, because if I even said that, then, any disappointment if you didn't get close to that, I just didn't think that was a chance. I do think that is something that people can look to this year. And I'll finish it by saying that I feel better about this Browns team in March this year than I did about last year's team in July. And I think that's quite a big difference. I mean, we've literally got draft, OTAs and training camp in between, that kind of stuff, all of those things to happen. Yet I still feel better now, even before all of that, for this team going into next year than I did about last year's team in July, even August, hell, even preseason. So obviously we're all Browns fans hoping for that final season that we can go and taste some silverware. Is it going to be next year? I doubt it, but it's the NFL, so you never know. Josh, thank you so much for giving me your time. Absolutely love talking Browns with every Browns fan, and especially Browns fan as well versed as yourself. So really enjoyed talking with you. Before I let you go, just in case anyone doesn't know where to find you, which if they don't, where have you been living under the last 3 years? Clearly a rock, because one of the best podcasts out there for the Cleveland Browns. Let everyone know where they can find you in the podcast, Josh.
I really appreciate that. Yeah, we're at the Dogs Podcast on all the social medias, X, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all that. And then, again, at the Dogs Podcast on YouTube. You can find the podcast on Spotify, Apple, anywhere you listen to podcasts. We've got the audio out there. We got video. And we're trying to ramp up the content even more, especially right now with this last, 3.5 week stretch up into the draft, until we're doing our annual live stream on night 1 of the draft. It's going to be a ton of fun.
Yep, I'll be joining in. So I hope everyone else go and check that out and join in as well. Josh, thank you so much again, and hopefully talk soon.
All right, thanks a lot. Thanks for having me. This episode is sponsored by Butcher Box for Pets. Browns fans, we love our fellow dogs, our Dog Pack members, and the Dog Pound faithful, but let's not kid ourselves. The most important dogs in our lives are, our dogs. Your furry friends aren't just pets, they're part of the family. But the question is, what are you actually feeding them? Head to butcherbox4pets.com/products to see all the options for your dogs, including fresh and dry foods, treats, meal toppers, and even toys for your dog. If you're not sure what your dog will like best, try the Premium Nutrition Adult Starter Pack back, and they even have a vacation bundle to take care of your four-legged friends while you're on vacation this summer. And right now you can get 20% off your order with promo code DAWGS, DAWGS, when you check out. At ButcherBox, they believe in real ingredients. Their pet foods have been developed and certified by vet nutritionists to contain zero artificial flavors or preservatives. You get protein-packed formula with over 50% of the recipe comprised of third-party certified humane ButcherBox meat, plus functional ingredients like pre- and postbiotics to support your dog's vitality and digestion. I know that sounds like a lot, but the bottom line is your dogs are getting the nutrition and the value they need and honestly that they deserve. I know our home wouldn't be the same without Odie, our 100-pound golden retriever who thinks he's a 10-pound lap dog. He is not, but it gives us peace of mind knowing that we're giving him quality food instead of just that factory processed garbage from the store. And speaking of the store, no need to go. ButcherBox for Pets delivers their high-quality food right to your door. So head to butcherboxforpets.com/products and use promo code DAWGS, DAWGS, for 20% off your order. It's time for us dogs to give our dogs the nutrition they deserve. All right, thank you guys for hanging out with me for the final piece of that conversation with Oliver George. He's great, man. I really enjoyed talking to him. UK Browns fan. I think it's at UK Browns NFL on Twitter, YouTube. He's got his channel over there, posted videos and content. Really doing good work, and he's got a great perspective on this team, and it was a lot of fun talking to him. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. Really planning on having him back sometime here later in the offseason. After the draft, we'll talk about everything heading into the summer. He is a great guest. So thank you, Oliver. Appreciate you. And again, everybody go follow him. Now, I got a couple voicemails here I want to hit before we wrap up the show for today. So let's dive into the first one here is from Zach.
My hot take is that I believe we should take a receiver at 6. If we're not going to take receiver, I think we take Caleb Downs. I don't want us to go offensive tackle. I wouldn't be mad if we went offensive tackle, but I feel like there's enough in this draft where we can get a solid one at 24 or in the second round. And our free agency moves have, I know on paper, we're strictly on paper right now. It's not on the field yet, but I feel more comfortable going in one of those other positions of need at the moment. So that's my hot take to kind of mix up the conversation. And it's not just, hey, Caleb Downs at 6 again. Go Browns. Hoo-hoo.
All right, Zach, he's back with first of all, that's AKA Fake Burns. And he's back with the Caleb Downs at 6. You know, we had that voicemail from Zach the other night on the live show. And, you know, Blake was very clear about you. It's going to be hard to sell taking a defensive player to this fan base at 6 if that's where they're forced to pick. And the offense just needs so much. We're so depleted on that side of the ball. The talent is terrible. Just so bad. Yes, Cardinal Tate, if he's on the board, that's been my opinion since the middle of the NFL season. I've been posting like Cardinal Tate needs to be a Cleveland Brown next year in 2026. And here we are just about to turn the page on the calendar into April. And that opinion has not changed. It's only gotten stronger. Everything I've seen, everything I've watched, everything I've read, the analytical deep dives, just what Cardinal Tate projects to be at the NFL level and the ceiling that I think he possesses as a receiver. And that doesn't even account for the fact that he's coming out of Ohio State where they just produce wide receiver 1 after wide receiver 1 every season. So I think Tate would be the great pick. Trade down, sure, because I brought this point up then too with Blake whenever we were talking about you can't take a defensive player at 6. If Tate, Maui Noah are gone, and again, I'll keep saying it, I don't think there's another tackle in this class worth taking at 6 other than Francis Maui Noah. If he's gone, tackle's off the board, in my opinion. For me, anyway. Tate definitely on the board at 6. I want him. If those two guys are gone, you guys know my opinion. I'm thinking Jeremiah Love. I want an offensive weapon. I want an offensive playmaker. I want a guy that can come in and break a game wide open on any given play. That's what the good NFL teams have. Good NFL teams have those players, and we don't have any of them. So that's what I want. And if you're not going to do that, then yeah, it's only defense. That's it. Like in the top 6, those are basically your 3 offensive guys. Take Fernando Mendoza off the board, obviously, because he's going number 1. It's all defensive guys. It's Sonny Styles. It's Caleb Downs. It's David Bailey, Ruben Bain. It's Mansour Delane. We're going to talk about these guys on an episode next week, I think, is when I'm going to do that one. But trading back, yeah, if those offensive guys are off the board. But if they're on the board, you got to stick and pick one of them. We need top-end offensive talent on this roster. Zach, appreciate hearing from you, man, as always. Let's see. Kieran, I think. We'll do your voicemail next. This one's from Kieran.
Hey, guys, it's Kieran, Indiana transplant from now living in South Carolina. Go Dogs. Go Buckeyes. Been a fan all my life. First game I went to, Brady Quinn was the quarterback. That might date myself a bit for some of the younger fan base, but like Tate is a guaranteed hit at receiver. Ohio State has that track record. The left tackle talent, or just the tackle talent in general in this class, is kind of not bottom of the barrel, but just very iffy for me. My opinion, if Tate is gone at 6, we trade back 100%. I don't even care if Caleb Downs is there. In my head, if that happens, we're taking for JJ. In my opinion, take O-line. We should also be taking the O-line staff into consideration and the way that they develop talent. Obviously, the staff that we've taken from the Ravens have a very good track record. And in my opinion, like even if we were to take a defensive guy that early, you have to think the Broncos winning their Super Bowl. Like they had an insane defense. They still had Demaryius Thomas. Like I don't care how good our defense gets. We still need an all-pro at the receiver position.
All right, Kieran, thank you, man, for the voicemail. Great to hear from you. Yeah, Brady Quinn, man. I remember I was in college when the Browns took Brady Quinn, and it's different because I was young then. Obviously, I wasn't following the team or covering them like I do now in my older years here, but just never felt like Brady Quinn got an honest opportunity. Whenever he was here in Cleveland, I felt like for taking him in the first round, they kind of yanked his chain a bit for those first couple seasons, and then I don't know if he ever really got a fair shot. Which, I mean, honestly, whether that's true or not, again, somebody who maybe covered the Browns or followed them a little more closely, in the news cycle and things than I did, than I was whenever I was in college trying to do a million other things, can let me know if I'm right or wrong about that. But that's just what we do with quarterbacks, unfortunately. And I'm afraid of doing that with Shedeur Sanders because I know there's people out there that are on the opposite side of this opinion, but I really do. You guys just heard my conversation with Oliver. I really think if there's anybody this season who's got the potential to emerge, to ascend, and become the future for the Browns at quarterback, the only person who has even a little bit of that potential, even just a little bit, is Shedeur Sanders. Deshaun Watson doesn't have it. He's gone after this year. It doesn't matter how. It doesn't matter. He could start week 1 and the Browns could win 10 games this year. He's not coming back next year. They are not re-signing him. That world is something that I cannot fathom. And it sure as hell ain't Dylan Gabriel. So it's Shedeur Sanders. And I really hope that they don't pull the rug out from under this kid before he's had an opportunity to actually show what he can do with some preparation and some growth and development. I agree with all your draft takes. Tate, love him. Tackle class, not impressed with the tackles in the top half of the first round. That's where I'm at. As a whole, the class, I think that there are some good offensive linemen in this class. There are some good tackles, not at 6. That's just where I'm at. At 24, yes, there is a conversation around like 5 different guys, 6 different guys at 24, and definitely at 39 or in between that range. So if you want to trade back from 24, recoup maybe another, second round, third round pick and still get the guy you want, or if you want to move up from 39, which again, Andrew Berry's only really ever done one time in 6 years. So I'm not anticipating a trade up, but I could see a situation, this is just kind of off the top of my head, but maybe a trade back slightly. I'm not talking a big one. From 24, if there's, say, 4 tackles on the board, say, I don't know, I'm just spitballing, say Lomu, maybe Proctor Falls, I don't know, Blake Miller, Iheanacho, 3 or 4 tackles are on the board at 24. And maybe somebody else is on the board that they know a team behind us is kind of jonesing for. Well, maybe we could trade back from 24 to 27, 28, 29, whatever the case may be. Still get one of the tackles because maybe they're all on the same tier on our draft board, and then we got an extra 3rd round pick or maybe a 2nd round pick next year or something of that nature. Still get the tackle we want, still pick a guy that we want at 39. I could see that scenario playing out as well. Honestly, a trade back from 24 might be a little more probable, a little more likely than a trade back from 6, just because it's going to depend on who's on the board at 6 and who's behind us that wants to move up for said player. Are we passing on that player that a team behind us wants to move up for so badly? And is the draft capital compensation going to be worth moving out of a top 6 pick? There's a lot more to go into the equation of moving out of 6, I believe, in my opinion, than moving out of 24. But maybe I'm wrong. You guys let me know what you think. Moving on here, a couple voicemails left. This one is from Stacy.
Hey guys, just wanted to say, so I just saw a interview from Carnell Tate. It looked like it was from the Pro Day, and he did mention that Todd Monken actually recruited him to go to Georgia. So I don't know if this is information that anyone had already known about, but the fact that there is that slight connection between Todd Monken and Carnell Tate, do we think that that makes it more possible for us to get him at 6? God, I hope so. What do you guys think?
All right, Stacy, appreciate the voicemail. Love hearing from you as always. And I did not hear that. I have not seen that quote from Carnell Tate about Todd Monken recruiting him or trying to recruit him to Georgia. So that's interesting. I will dive into that, see what I can find, and whatever I come up with, if there's anything there, I'll talk about it here in an upcoming show. Thank you for bringing that up. I appreciate that. I got a voicemail here to wrap things up. Little draft day scenario. Gotta love these, honestly. I really do. These hypotheticals are cool. And this one's from Justin.
What's up, Dog Podcast? It's Justin in Jersey here again. Just wondering your thoughts if we don't take Tate at 6 and we're sitting at 24 without a receiver, and these 3 are available, Lemon, Tyson, and Boston. In my opinion, Boston drops a lot of balls, so I don't trust him, but Mekhi Lemon seems to have a little bit of the attitude with him. You know, we saw a little bit of that. And then Tyson has the injuries, which the reports have come back from multiple levels saying that they're very true. You know, those injuries are there. He is injury prone. I feel myself almost, I love Jordan Tyson, but I feel like if I'm going to take a risk on someone that drops the ball, someone that's injury prone, and someone that's got a little bit of an attitude problem, maybe I go Lemon here. But also, it's like, who are they definitely going to be? Is Mekhi Lemon or Tyson definitely going to be there at 24? And what do you do in that scenario? But I guess I just felt like if all 3 were available, I might actually be starting to lean towards Mekhi Lemon instead. Anyway, just wondering your thoughts on that, who you would take if, you know, perfect world, they are available at 24, or do you trade up and maybe you get rid of your 2nd round and go for Tyson or Lemon, you know? Also, I'm RT Guy 207 on TikTok. If you want to throw me an ad, go Browns. Hoo-hoo.
Okay, quick answer, Mekhi Lemon. Easy. Not even a question. If he's there at 24, it's Mekhi Lemon. The attitude thing, the way he answered his stuff at the combine in those interviews, not even slightly concerned. I think that he is just a very competitive, alpha dog-minded wide receiver, and his tape backs it up. I'm going to take him out of this conversation, though, because there ain't no way in hell, I'm telling you right now, that Mekhi Lemon will be available at 24. He's off the board. He's gone. Now, Jordan Tyson, I would say probably gone before 24, but much more likely to be there at 24 than Lemon. I think Lemon's about a 0% chance is where I'm going to put it. 0% chance. Tyson, I don't even know what percent I would give it, but I think it's getting larger. The odds that maybe he slips to 24, you see receivers sometimes start to fall down the draft board when teams are taking linemen on the defense and offense, and teams are taking safety or on cornerback and these other kind of positions. So, yeah, I could see Jordan Tyson potentially being there. Obviously, if it was Tyson in Boston, you take Tyson. And I know you're talking about Boston dropping a lot of passes. Boston only had 2 drops last year for a 3.1% drop rate, one of the lowest in the class. So I'd have to go back and look at his stats. I only have this year's pulled up in front of me to see if dropping the ball was something that plagued him in the past. But even if it was, he obviously took care of it and corrected it this year. Because the top 4 receivers, at least, and this is back whenever mock draft database this was before like the combine and everything, things have changed. But Carnell Tate, 0 drops. dude doesn't drop the ball. Mekhi Lemon, I think that's Mekhi Lemon next. Yep, Mekhi Lemon, 2 drops. Jordan Tyson, just 1 drop. And Denzel Boston, just 2 drops in 2025. So these guys, it's not an issue. Honestly, if I'm going to do this scenario with you at 24, though, I think we can kind of take Tyson off because Tyson would be the obvious pick if he's there at 24. I think at that point, the injury stuff, it's still a concern. Like, it doesn't change. It doesn't mean he's less injured just because he's available at 24. It doesn't decrease those odds. But the risk of the value pick that you're putting into him goes down because it's 24, not 6, obviously. So I think 24, if he's there, he would be the guy. If he's not there, then you're talking, and you didn't take a wide receiver at 6. This is the scenario you laid out. Then we're talking Boston. We're talking KC Concepcion. And we're talking Omar Cooper Jr. would be the next 3 in consideration for me and probably for everybody, for any NFL team in that situation at 24. Earlier in the process, I was starting to get high on Denzel Boston. I've cooled down on that. I think that there's a little bit of limitations in his game versus the other 2 guys that I just mentioned. And I would be more interested in taking Omar Cooper Jr. or a guy that I was high on when the process started. I got infatuated with some of these other guys, kind of moved them ahead of him for me. But I'm kind of back now on KC Concepcion out of Texas A&M. This guy, 919 yards, 9 touchdowns. He's 7.2 yards after catch per reception, so get the ball in his hands, and he does stuff with it. A 2.46 yards per route run, and he's doing this on a 12.3 ADOT, which is different than some of these other guys with this yards after catch. They get the ball a little closer to the line of scrimmage. Their ADOT, average depth of target down the field, is not quite as far from the line of scrimmage, whereas Concepcion is. Now, he is a guy that struggled with drops in this draft class. Most drops out of the top, 16, 17 receivers in this class. He had 7. 10 out of 15 contested catch for a 67% contested catch rate. He forces missed tackles. He had 14 of them last year. I just think he's got the potential to be a game breaker. And that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for guys who can break a game open. I know this is going to sound weird. I don't know if I can articulate it the best way. I don't just want a ho-hum, decent, go out there and he's going to get you, 4 or 5 catches a game for, anywhere from 40 to 70 yards a game type of player. I want a game wrecker. I want somebody that can just completely split open the scoreboard and put some fear into a defense. And that's where I kind of separate. I'm not saying Denzel Boston's not a good player. I think what I just described would put KC Concepcion and Omar Cooper Jr. ahead of him. So for me, if I had to order my top, 5 receivers in the draft right now, Carnell Tate, Mekhi Lemon, Jordan Tyson are 3. So I guess this would be my top 6. And then I would probably go Concepcion, Cooper, Boston. And that would be my top 6 order as it currently stands. But we'll see how things change here over the next month because we are within a month now. The NFL draft, the first night, our live coverage of the first round will be 4 weeks from last night. We are within it now. So let's get there. I'm excited to see what the Browns do. I'm hoping they don't screw this up because we have a history of screwing up the draft. Let's just call it what it is. That's the reason why we have been so terrible consistently for 30 years. It's been tough. It's been tough, but we're here. We don't go anywhere. We keep supporting the team, rooting for the team, even if some of the people making decisions sometimes are not the best ones to be doing so. So Andrew Berry, you got a lot to prove here in April. Don't mess this up, pal. Don't mess it up. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Let me know what you guys think about the draft. Obviously, drop your comments in here about Shedeur Sanders versus Deshaun Watson, the QB1 competition, if that's really what you guys think it is. I don't personally think it's a competition. To me, Shedeur Sanders already won a QB battle last summer, even though the depth chart did not reflect it. The actions of the team, and that doesn't necessarily mean the coach, but the actions of the entire organization reflected they believed Shedeur Sanders was the better quarterback last year. I'll just leave it at that. So let's see if what they do this offseason so far, not adding a single quarterback or even really being in much of a discussion for one, has pointed toward that. Now, if they go and they take Ty Simpson in the first round, okay, well, forget everything I just said. We got a whole new discussion we got to have. But until that happens, unless that happens, we're not going to worry about it. We'll talk about it. We'll cross that bridge if we must. But thank you guys again for tuning in. Have a great weekend. Join thedogs.com if you want to jump into the Discord community, hang out with us, hang out with everybody in there, conversations 24/7 about the Browns and just whatever you want to talk about in there, life in general. It's a great place to be, and it's a great way to support the show. Helps us continue to do what we're doing, and we appreciate everybody in that community as well. So like, subscribe, all that stuff here on YouTube. Follow us on all the socials at The Dogs Podcast. And I will see you guys, actually, just a little heads up, Sunday, you're going to get hit with an episode I recorded with Kenny Mack a couple days ago. And it's one that, I don't know if we did it last offseason. I'm thinking we didn't, but we've done it in years past, and we should be doing it every year. And I think we're going to even do a second one this offseason. It's our dueling mock drafts. We got 2 draft boards up on the screen. My draft board, Kenny's draft board. We go through the draft, each pick, boom, boom, back and forth. And at the end, you guys get to vote and decide who came out with the better draft class between me and Kenny Mack. So that is a fun one. Dueling mock drafts on Sunday. Have a great weekend, everybody. And I'll see you in the next episode.
Thanks for listening to another episode of The Dogs Podcast. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube and follow us on Twitter at The Dogs Podcast. Get your thoughts on the show at thedogspodcast.com.
This episode is sponsored by ISSA. Browns fans, if you're into health and fitness, have you ever wondered how you could maybe turn those hobbies and your passion into an actual career? If that sounds interesting to you, then ISSA has the opportunity you've been looking for. ISSA is the International Sports Science Association, and they can help you become a certified personal trainer in as little as 3 months. And right now you can get $100 off your certification when you sign up through our link, joinissa.com/dogs, DAWGS. Now, certifications are 100% online, self-study, and self-paced. You can study anywhere from your phone, tablet, or computer. And the final exam is open note, open book, aka piece of cake. Except you fitness nuts probably don't eat a ton of cake, so let's just call it a piece of delicious protein bar. And ISSA has the #1 job guarantee in the industry. If you get certified and sign up to be a certified trainer with ISSA, you have a job guarantee or your money back. ISSA has over 10,000 gym partners that have over 73,000 open jobs for trainers right now. And you don't need a 4-year degree or a 2-year degree. You just need your certification to qualify for these jobs. So what are you waiting for? With certification this simple, there's no excuse not to pursue your passion and become a certified personal trainer today. Get $100 off your certification at joinissa.com/dogs. You've wanted to make a change long enough. Now it's time to do something about it. That's joinissa.com/dogs for $100 off your personal trainer certification.